It's the restricted area on the Athletics YouTube page. It's your NBA show. I'm Zach Harper. That's Wozni Lambre, our cultural anthropologist. Don't forget, smash the subscribe, like it, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies. Anybody you want to share it with, give it to them, and make sure you subscribe to The Athletic. TheAthletic.com/restricted area. You're going to get The Athletic, the best coverage on the internet for $1 a week. That's TheAthletic.com/restricted area. Let's get into the show. The 2020 NBA draft is here, and it has been the longest build up to a draft in the sport's history. Who's going number one? Who's going number two? Honestly, at this point, who cares, right? You've seen the big boards, you've done the mock drafts. Instead, we thought it would be fun to kind of see how we got here with the history of the draft. So let's take a long, strange journey into that history.
And we love the draft, Zach, because it's part graduation, part prom, part coronation ceremony. Definitely one of the best nights of the year.
It's my favorite night on the calendar. I just love everything about it. The fans cheering, the fans booing, the crazy suits. We got Adam Silver dapping people up. We've got awkward high fives. It's got everything. And Woz, we have the zany comps, right? We've got everything from Eddie Curry being compared to Shaquille O'Neal to that time Dirk Nowitzki was the comparison for Darko Milicic.
That's profiling, Zach.
It's true. So, when we usually have Christmas in June, this time it's in November, and oh, the memories that we're gonna get from this draft.
And Zach, growing up, I didn't always have cable, and so I didn't always get to catch the draft. And as an adult, I was kind of hit or miss catching the draft, and the ones that I did would fade into the memory hole. But one draft that will stay with me for the rest of my life was 2013 with my buddies, watching Anthony Bennett get drafted #1 overall and watching all of us be completely stupefied.
Woz, let's go back to 1949 and the newly formed NBA. Clifton McNeely, a 28-year-old guard, 28-year-old guard from Texas Wesleyan and a veteran of the Army Air Corps, was taken #1 by the Pittsburgh Ironmen. And Woz, take a look at him.
Guy was somehow older than Buddy Hield. But seriously, Zach, back then almost dunking was considered to be a highlight. And were these cats wearing shin guards?
This is the tough thing about Clifton McNeely. He didn't even want to play.
With the amount of pre-draft scrutiny that goes on these days, it's hard to imagine that you would have to ask a guy, do you even want to play basketball?
1951. Gene Melchiorre, the #1 pick of the Baltimore Bullets. He receives a lifetime NBA ban for a point shaving incident before he ever plays a game. He never played in the NBA despite being the #1 pick. And Woz, look at him. He looks like he's point shaving. Like, I don't know any of the particulars of the case, but he's guilty.
Look, Zach, guilty or not, we can say old Gino did one thing for sure, and that's absolutely start the trend of top NBA draft picks already having been paid in college.
1961, Tom Stith, selected #2 overall by the New York Knicks. His career gets cut short after just 25 games because he got tuberculosis.
Zach, could you imagine if last year's #2 pick, Ja Morant, had his career clipped short after 25 games because he was working in a coal mine part-time?
I think I'm getting the black lung, Bob.
Back then, these guys had real jobs.
1962, it happens again to the Knicks. The #2 overall pick, Paul Hogue. He plays in just 65 games. You know why he retired? He wanted to work for the post office.
Unbelievable. Finally, Zach, we figured out where Karl Malone stole that god-awful nickname from.
Woz, let's go to 1977. Kent Benson, the #1 overall pick by the Milwaukee Bucks. He's the big draft pick that's in the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to the Lakers trade, and he eventually got knocked out by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
And Zach, we're not talking about the playoffs knocked out. He got Manny Pacquiao.
1980, Joe Barry Carroll, the #1 overall pick of the Golden State Warriors. Nicknamed Joe Barely Cares because he doesn't like to play defense. Same. He was a draft night deal with the Boston Celtics. And who did Red Auerbach get in return? Just Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale, couple Hall of Famers, no big deal, Woz.
Sheesh, we were so ruthless with the nicknames back then. But I believe that Red Auerbach sent Joe a couple boxes of cigars as a token of gratitude for helping make the Celtics into a 1980s dynasty.
1998, Michael Olowokandi, #1 overall pick for the Los Angeles Clippers.
The Candyman can
Waz, the Clippers passed on 3 Hall of Famers for the Candyman: Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce.
And what the Clippers got instead was a few years of this. Play the clip.
Marbury off the dribble.
Nice. Stoudemire and one, and the rookie powers to the rack.
2001, Kwame Brown, #1 overall pick out of high school to the Washington Wizards. Michael Jordan actually made that selection, and then he kind of did his best to ruin Kwame's basketball confidence.
And Kwame's taken a lot of heat over the years, but he's earned a combined $63 million. That'll keep him warm at night.
And finally was 2013, Anthony Bennett, UNLV's #1 overall pick to the Cleveland Cavaliers, came out of nowhere. And I cannot stress this enough. Out of nowhere, nobody had this.
What in the hell were Cleveland and Dan Gilbert thinking, Zach? Like, oh yeah, that's right. They're the Cavs. But seriously though, nobody's ever gone from #1 to bust faster than Anthony Harris Bennett did.
You were just a turd out there. You know, you couldn't kick and you couldn't run, you know. You're just a turd.
Sometimes things don't go according to plan when it comes to the draft. Imagine that since you were a little kid, not only were you blessed with the ability to play basketball, but you were also given the drive to hone your craft, become one of the best players on earth. You win games, you win tournaments, state and national accolades. Some say you're even so good at what you do, you don't even have to go to college to play. You can go straight to the pros. And what do you get for that? You don't even get to pick where you want to work.
Zach, there's just something profoundly un-American about the entire draft process. Just imagine the greatest scientist walking the earth today. And now imagine that he doesn't even have the freedom to go off and, I don't know, figure out the cure for cancer. Instead, he gets drafted by Hostess and has to dedicate the rest of his life into making Twinkies last longer.
Let's start with Danny Ferry, who was selected #2 overall by the Los Angeles Clippers in 1989. He was the National Player of the Year and a 4-year decorated star at Duke. He didn't want to go to the Clippers though. In fact, he refused so dramatically and stubbornly that he went overseas to play for a year in order to force a trade from the Clippers.
Rather than play for Donald Sterling's Clippers, Ferry instead opted to go to Italy. And it wasn't all bolognese and carbonara, if you get my drift, Zach.
Gravy's good tonight.
It's crazy, Waz. After Ferry retires, he has a pretty decent run as an executive. He spent a decade in various front offices until one fateful meeting. While running the Hawks, he said something pretty racist about Luol Deng.
He's a good guy overall, but he's not perfect. He's got some African in him.
The guy who refused to work for Donald Sterling ends up with his own racist moment. You can't just put anything on the scouting report because Danny Ferry will read it.
I'm Ron Burgundy?
Damn it! Who typed a question mark on the teleprompter? For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
1999, Steve Francis gets reluctantly drafted #2 overall by the Vancouver Grizzlies. Play the tape!
With the second pick in the 1999 NBA draft, the Vancouver Grizzlies select Steve Francis from the University of Maryland.
Waz, he tried everything to get out of this, right? He cried about endorsements, he cried about taxes, he even invoked God's will to not go to Vancouver. There's even an incident at the airport where the ticket agent has no idea who the Grizzlies are when he says he might play for them. They've been around the league for about 4 years at that point.
In a Players Tribune article, Francis wrote this, Zach, quote, "I was not about to go up to freezing ass Canada, so far away from my family, when they were about to move the franchise anyway. I'm sorry, but actually, I'm really not even sorry."
Waz, I've gotta see that reaction to when he was drafted one more time. We gotta play the tape again.
Steve Francis from the University of Maryland.
There are people who have walked in on their spouse banging a different person who were less pissed off than Steve Francis was to merely be drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies.
Soon after that, his agent orchestrated a trade to the Houston Rockets. And by the way, the first time he played against the Grizzlies in Vancouver, 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. Waz, one of the hallmarks of draft day is the draft day suit. Who could forget Drew Gooden's Dr. Evil, Hakeem Olajuwon's tuxedo, and of course private investigator Bonzi Wells. So let's take a look at some of our favorites. All right, let's go to Karl Malone, 1985. What's going on here, Waz?
I mean, what even is that? It's ridiculous. That tie is shorter than John Stockton's shorts.
That tie is shorter than the list of teammates who trust him with their significant other. Let's go to Jalen Rose, 1994, red with the pinstripes.
Hey man, this ain't nothing but some Detroit player stuff going on right here. Jalen Rose showing off Detroit pimp culture. Not pictured are the silky smooth Gators.
2003, LeBron James, styling and profiling.
Ah, the king. You know what this looks like, Zach? Missy Elliott's I Can't Stand the Rain outfit, repurposed as a First Communion suit. Praise the Lord.
All right, what about Andrew Wiggins, 2014?
The thing about this Wiggins outfit, you may like it or not like it, but it makes me a little bit sad because Wiggins is proof that these guys are now taking this thing a little bit more seriously, professionalizing the process, right? They're going out and getting a tailor. They're hiring wardrobe consultants like Brandon Williams. And now you're not going to see the same crazy, goofy mistakes that you might have saw in the past.
I guess the exception might be Kawhi Leonard, but we should probably just be happy that he didn't wear overalls to the draft.
There goes our boy, Farmer Kawhi.
Finally, Waz, it wouldn't be a draft show without the wild player comps for all the guys coming into the NBA.
NBADraft.net has become legendary over the years for coming up with some of the craziest player comps.
And here are my favorites, okay? We're gonna start in 2006. The scoring forward out of Gonzaga, it's Adam Morrison. Crying at the end of college losses didn't hurt him enough from being compared to Larry Bird.
Zach, it was bad enough when they were calling Keith Van Horn the next Larry Bird, but this also might be the last Larry Bird comparison ever.
All right, in 2007, Greg Oden was the guy coming out of Ohio State. His draft comparison on the internet was a mix between David Robinson and Bill Russell.
Brendan, I can't even make eye contact with you right now.
Your voice is like a combination of Fergie and Jesus.
And then the ultimate player comparison happens with Deshawn Stevenson. In 2001, the high school kid coming out of Fresno, California, has a very reasonable expectation. They call him the next Michael Jordan.
Nah, but Zach, that one I can see because he too had a completely and utterly unnecessary beef with LeBron James.
That's gonna do it for the restricted area this week. Don't forget to subscribe to The Athletic for $1 a week. Get all your post-draft coverage. Also, keep an eye out for our draft expert Sam Vecini's big boards and mock drafts for the 2021 NBA draft, whenever that might be. Smash the subscribe button, like it, share it with friends, leave a nice comment, and we'll see you next week on the restricted area.
Wait. I have one more thing to add, Zach. Because there are no Haitians in this year's draft, I'm rooting for Killian Hayes to go #1 because he's a Frenchman and that's the next closest thing.
Sac passe.